Welcome to a brand new edition of the midweek talk-through of Young Gun. I am your host, Demetri. My friend Taylor Dahl will be along in just a moment to talk to us about the Bears this week as the Panthers and Bears get ready to meet on Thursday Night Football. First, though, I've got to tell you about our friends at Graffiti, Spirits, Axes, and Arts, 158 East Cedar Street, downtown Cary, the best place to watch football each and every Sunday. 19 TVs. Great drink specials, including those bourbon pour specials. There they are for you to take a look at. All kinds of options, $8, $9, $10 a pour, plus their beer specials every week, weekly prizes as well. And don't forget, if there is somebody in your crew that does not like football as much as the rest of you, Graffiti is the perfect place to watch the games because they have all of those axe throwing lanes. It's perfect. 19 TVs, you are never going to miss a minute of the action. Plus, it is just a cool environment to spend a Sunday afternoon in amongst all the great art on the walls. If you have not been to Graffiti for a football Sunday, this week is the time to go, so do it. 158 East Cedar Street in downtown Cary. It's where Lauren and I like to hang out. It's where we like to watch football, and we want you to do it as well. Join us at Graffiti in downtown Cary. Welcome to the midweek talk-through edition of Young Gun. A little bit early this week as the Panthers and Bears play on Thursday Night Football. I'm bringing in my friend Taylor Dahl, who hosts a podcast kind of similar to ours about the Chicago Bears, but instead of focusing on one young player, she is focusing on all the young players. The name of the podcast is Making Monsters. Taylor, thanks so much for making the time.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me on. We got a thriller Thursday.
Yeah, a battle of who cannot throw up on themselves the most. I do wonder if between DJMoore and Deontay Foreman, if there is some sort of delight for Bears fans in playing this game.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of extra of obviously for the Bears. It's almost like you're feeling like this is the one they've had circled on the calendar. No matter if the Panthers were going to be good or bad, I think the Bears were still kind of like, okay, this is a game that we kind of want to win. Obviously, they have the Panthers pick also, so you want the Panthers to keep losing. Didn't know that we'd end up having 2 and 3, which is where we're sitting right now. But there is that little extra satisfaction, I think. And there was a lot, and I don't know how much you saw of it on social media when the trade happened and stuff. And I know you joked about it on another podcast, and it was like, there's no way anybody said DJMoore wasn't a wide receiver one, but I promise you it was happening. And I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, this guy's been incredible with 5 different quarterbacks. No matter who's throwing him the ball, he's been able to find success on the football field. So it was just wild to me that people were saying that. So I think that's a little extra edge that Bears fans are holding on to also. So there are multiple things when it comes between the two teams that I think add a little bit of something for us. Nobody else in the NFL, but for Bears Panthers.
I want to make sure listeners understand that I have helped Taylor in her career. She is someone that I think is super talented, and also as a person. I love Taylor. Like, we exchange texts on personal stuff with some regularity. All that being said, I do believe you are a filthy, filthy liar, and you are making things up for clout. No, I understand. Like, I look back on that time, and like, you know me, that I'm a Panthers fan for as long as BryceYoung is their quarterback, and then I'm out of here. But I do look back on that time, and I wonder how much of that was about he is worth trading for the number 1 pick versus he is not really a number 1 receiver. Because right now that separation is 100% what not just the Panthers, but BryceYoung specifically is missing. And I think that is the biggest source of his frustration as a quarterback right now.
Yeah, and it's almost and it obviously hasn't transferred to wins for the Bears, but offensively, the offense has, especially when Justin's in, is way more consistent, is able to do, like, DJ just does things that normal wide receivers don't do easily, and he makes it look easy. And that's when that comes down to contested catches, that comes down to the yards after catch. And people were kind of giving Justin a hard time in the preseason because they were like, oh, well, he had 15 yards, but it's showing 120 because DJ had like 90 yards after carry, whatever.
Right.
Catch. That's what good quarterback and receivers do. The Bears were dead last in YAC last year, and the fact that that's been able to get so much higher, and the offense really was on a roll the last few weeks before Justin got hurt. It's unfortunate. Obviously, now he's missed a few weeks. Don't even know if he's going to be there Thursday. But it just automatically was a game changer in what the offense is able to do. It opens way more opportunities. And so I think he's just that guy. And when the trade was happening, a lot of talks was it going to be Brian Burns, or was it? We didn't even have DJMoore in our minds. Like, we did not think that was what it was. We thought it was going to end up being Burns. And so when we get the text and it's DJMoore, we were like, heck yes, like we just got a wide receiver number one. So like it was exciting for the Bears. We haven't had that. There's statistics everywhere where you go back and you're like, the Bears have never had a quarterback throw 30 touchdowns in a season. The Bears have never had a 4,000 passing yard season. Only teams in the NFL to never have that. Their leading wide receiver is someone from like the 50s, and right behind that, the closest to behind that is Alshon Jeffrey. So you're like, it's just moments where it's like, let us be a little happy with this for a minute.
Right. I want to go back to when that trade goes down, or I guess before that trade goes down. Is there a chance? I mean, because Justin Fields has not had the smoothest relationship with Bears fans, right? Is there a chance that if the Bears hold on to the number one pick, that BryceYoung is in Chicago, or if they are holding on, is that 100% for, whoever, Will Anderson or someone big on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I never got the vibe that they were going quarterback. And there was a lot of they were at this person's pro day and they were at this. Like, that's what you do as a GM. But I never got the indication that the Bears wanted a quarterback. Brian Poles from the start was very much like, Justin Fields is our quarterback. We need to build around him. We need to build the trenches. We need to give him some weapons. And he was very vocal about that. So I never got the indication. I truly think that if the Bears stuck at one, they would have took Will Anderson. That's where my mind was with that, which I would have been fine with at that moment. I would have been like, okay, this is it. Obviously, being able to trade back and get a guy like Darnell Wright, who's been playing incredibly well at that right tackle spot, has been fun to watch. And especially because it was such a dire need in Chicago. And I get it. Some people wanted Jalen Carter. Believe me, I understand. He's a force. But at the same time, you have to protect Justin. And even this year, the line's been very beat up. So we haven't even had what we were supposed to go into the season with as our starting offensive line. We have not seen them yet. Someone's been hurt every single week. We're finally starting to get back to health. We're almost there. We're missing one guy, and he should be back hopefully in the next week or two. And then you can really have an indication of what that offensive line is supposed to look like in front of Justin. And then I think you can really have a say on what the draft, maybe if they made the wrong or right choice. But I never had the thought that they were going to just sit there and take BryceYoung.
Yeah. So I do sort of want to compare, I guess, get your insight into that young franchise savior quarterback journey. Whether or not that has come true for Justin Fields, certainly he was designated that way on draft night. So, look, what you mentioned with the Bears offensive line is very similar to the struggle here in Carolina. We have not seen a fully healthy offensive line, and the guys that were supposed to be the bedrocks have suddenly turned to hot garbage when they're on the field out there. It has been rough. How do you sort of look at these 2.5 seasons with Justin Fields in Chicago and compare them to the doubts we are already hearing in the Carolina fan base about BryceYoung? Like, at what point, or what had to happen for you think a lot of people to buy into there is hope here with Justin Fields? And I get it's still a divided fan base, but there is at least a little more assurance than there was even a year ago at this time.
Yeah. And I think it was right around this time, week 7 last year, we saw things start to shift. The offense, it was against the Patriots. Bears rocked the Patriots in primetime football. Justin Fields looked great. He was making plays, you not just using his legs, but able to get the ball downfield. And a lot of the question marks surrounding Justin Fields have been issues with his anticipation and holding the ball too long. To me, it all leads back to Justin Fields as one of the guys who wants the big play every time. He doesn't want to take the 5-yard check down. He doesn't want to do it. And you're going to have to, that's part of playing in the NFL, is you're going to have to sometimes take those shorter passes. And he does not want to. So that's something that has been trying to be worked on. The Bears fans, like you said, are very split. Half of them, I am on this half of, there's been a lot of bad surrounding Justin Fields. His first season, absolutely hot mess, disaster. Ryan Poles and Eberflus took over a roster that had to be completely revamped. Over 60% of the roster was hitting free agency that year, and they had no money. They literally had like $20 million to spend, no first round pick, only 5 picks total. It was just a mess. There was only so much that Ryan Poles could do in that offseason. So we kind of expected that season to be a wash. The scary part was that you felt like Justin was starting to regress by the end of the season. And a lot of that was because he was getting sacked every single time he took the ball, pretty much. Like ball snap, Justin's on the ground. And so you started to feel like he was getting a little shell shocked a little bit. And that was scary because this is your guy that you drafted and you were hoping is going to be your franchise guy. Now, last year we come in, he was still getting hit a lot. They did try and fix some pieces of the offensive line. Didn't work out the way they wanted it to. You still have Darnell Mooney as your number 1 wide receiver. Equanimeous St. Brown is one of your guys that you're kind of relying on, and that's Equanimeous is a great blocking wide receiver, but to count on him and having to actually catch passes and score touchdowns wasn't ideal. So
I would guess having to watch his brother in the very same division
we got like all the wrong ones.
Right,
we have the other Equanimeous, we have the other Sewell, because obviously Panay, and then we have Noah, which I'm not hating on him yet because honestly he plays linebacker and we haven't got to see too much, but still I was like, why do we got the wrong brothers? But yeah, so and I think that all of these things we make excuses for because we're like, he wasn't getting protection. The defense all of a sudden completely forgot. We had 15 straight games where the defense allowed 25 plus points or more. They had the least sacks in the league last year, bottom in pressures last year. So there was just no help on that side of the ball whatsoever. Casual fans that didn't watch the Bears wouldn't have seen that. They would have just looked at the box score and been like, dang, Justin only threw for 120 yards and 1 touchdown and 2 picks. Like that's all you're seeing. But when you're actually watching the games, you were seeing that he was carrying that team completely on his back week after week after week, to the point where literally like every time they would cut to Justin on the sideline, he was getting some hamstring worked on or calf worked on because he was just mentally and physically exhausting himself the entire season. And that showed up late in the year. So for me, I think it takes a lot of patience. It also takes obviously looking like there's so many other factors on the football field of what really leads to success. And yes, there's guys like Patrick Mahomes that can make nothing out of or something out of nothing. It takes a bit to get to that team. Patrick Mahomes also went to a Kansas City team that was winning football games already. He didn't go to a team that had been struggling and winning 3-2 games previous to that. So for you guys, for Panthers fans, I think it's more so like you have to take it game by game and see the things that he majorly needs to work on. And is he progressing in that? And it's not going to happen in 3 games. It's taken a year. It's taken a year, like you said, for fans to be like, okay, we're finally seeing this, and this out of Justin Fields. Now, can that continue, or is this the height of it? And that's where the question mark is now.
Hey, Demetri here. Just want to pop in real quick and tell you about our Christmas lights contest. The way this show gets spread around the internet has a lot to do with algorithms, right? And one of the things we need you to do is rate, review, and subscribe to Young Gun wherever it is you get your podcast. And here's what we're going to do to make it worth your while. Lauren and I are going to decorate someone's house for Christmas this year. What does that mean? It could mean all kinds of things, but we're going to do it, and the way you win the prize is by leaving a rating, a full review, and subscribe. Send us a picture proving you did all of those things to the oggoesdigital@gmail.com. Send that picture along with a picture of the front of your house so we can get an idea of what it is we are working with. Somebody is going to win Christmas decorations from me and Lauren, and it can look all kinds of different ways. Maybe she and I come out there and we actually hang the decorations. Maybe we pay somebody else to do it. Maybe we just give you a tub. Honestly, I don't know. But if you want to win it, if you're the type of person that has never decorated your house before because you just don't have the time, let us do it this holiday season. Rate, review, subscribe, prove it, and email us, the oggoesdigital@gmail.com. We need a picture of that review and a picture of the front of the house for you to qualify. Our only stipulation is you've got to live in the triangle. That's the only qualification we have for this prize. Do your part, help us spread the word, and we will do our part, rather, and help you spread the Christmas cheer. So one of the things that you mentioned there is you see Justin Fields, or you were seeing Justin Fields on the sideline, and he was just exhausted by trying to do everything for this team. I don't know that it's fair to say Bryce Young is doing everything for the Panthers, but I think it's pretty clear if you watch this team that he is doing all he can. Like
Yeah.
it's really hard to throw when receivers are never open and when your offensive line is not giving you any time. When I point that out, I'm often greeted with, well, he's got to do better because, to get Bryce now, no help is coming in the draft in the next couple of years. From the Bears side of the fence, how aware are you guys as a fan base of what could be based on the fact that for the next 2 years, you're going to have 2 first-round picks
Yeah.
in each of these draft classes? And, like you pointed out, this year it could be 2 and 3. And hell, we're not out of the woods. It could be 1 and 2 by the time
Yeah.
by the time the season's over.
I know. And that's where, I mean, there's big decisions that Chicago's going to have to make, because at what point do you start deciding that it is time to move from Justin Fields? And that's going to be the biggest question mark out of the season. What do you need to see them? And obviously you can't even see anything if he's not playing.
Mm-hmm.
This would be week 4 without Justin if he doesn't play. And that's right in the middle of the season when you were really hoping to start to see things start to flow a little bit more. And like I said, before he got hurt, he threw, I want to say six touchdowns for over like 600 yards. 8 touchdowns and like over 600 yards in 2 games. Like, we are finally starting to see things. They lost both of those games, by the way, because the defense, but it's just those moments where there's progress there, but how much is there? Because you do have so much, there's so much equity. There's so many assets that the Bears have now in the next couple seasons. And aside from the draft money also. So if you think in your mind, hey, should we move on to another quarterback? But then there's questions there too, because the same things that Justin struggles with, Caleb Williams has almost the same knocks on him. So do you do it again? Do you start over with someone who could kind of be pretty similar and hope that this time it's the guy? You're spending all of this money and draft picks and all of these things to try and build another quarterback that you haven't successfully been able to do in the history of the Chicago Bears. You cannot develop quarterbacks for some reason. And finally, you're seeing a little hope. So it's a decision. I think within the next three weeks, they'd really have to start leaning towards which way they want to go. Because do you keep losing, or do you really actually try to win these games? And obviously, it's easy for the GMs to say that. Are the players going to start losing? Because we have a lot of talent on here a lot of talent. And I said this in a podcast last week where I was like, I feel terrible for these guys, because I really do think that talent that is on the football field is getting overshadowed by the bad coaching. We've had 2 coaches fired. It's been 8 weeks into the season, and we've lost 2 coaches to like HR issues. So all of those things, it's so much negative on that side that people aren't seeing how much talent is actually really on the football field. And that kind of sucks, because it's now what you get to this offseason and people are like, okay, well, they had 2 coaches fired. They only won 3 games, and now they have the top pick again. Move on from Justin because he sucks. And that's what some people will probably look at.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see, like to your point about the decision to be made. Would a year with Marvin Harrison Jr. and I mean, hell, if you have 2 and 3, why not go get the 2 very best receivers in this draft if that is a real area of need for the Bears? I wonder if our fan bases are in similar boats. You guys had a very good, very promising performance against Las Vegas, and I'm moving Tyson Bagent to the side. That was always bullshit, smoke and mirrors, but the team played really well against Las Vegas. And then these last 2 weeks have been really bad. The Panthers played really good against Houston, and then on Sunday was as bad as we have seen them play all year. Only speaking from the Panthers side of the fence, it does feel like a lot of air went out of the balloon, because that should have been the start of a run of winnable games here. Does it feel the same way in Chicago right now?
Yeah, we've had multiple games like that. Denver, we were up 21 points, blew that, ended up losing that game. The Vikings should have won that game. Obviously, Justin went down in that game. There was way too many close games to where the Bears had the chance to win. This last week, they made every possible mistake you could make. I mean, I think it was like 70 yards in penalties, and they turned the ball over 5 times and still almost beat the Saints. And that's the frustrating ones, where it's like, you're playing that bad of football and you can almost beat these teams. Imagine if everything started to click and you limit these mistakes. And a lot of those mistakes have been those pre-snap penalties and the ones that a lot of times you relate to coaching. And that's the most frustrating part to me. But it has been similar to where it's like there's been a few weeks in a row where we're like, okay, this is the point where if we just win this game, you can hit a little roll and we can go, and you could still end the season with 6, 7, 8 wins, which would be ideal, honestly. At this point, I think Bears at this point would take 6, 7 wins. Some people are like, no, don't win. We need the picks. And I'm like, I don't want to do that again. Like, I want to win some football games, because if we're not winning the football games, then it looks like it's going to be, then we have to fix a lot more than we thought we had to fix. But if you go on a little streak at the end and you start winning these games and they're convincing and you're being consistent and things are really starting to mesh, then you're going into the offseason like, okay, well, we only won 5, 6 games, but at the end of the season, we were outscoring opponents. We limited the mistakes. Justin took steps up. And to me, if all those things start happening, there's at least a confidence going into the offseason rather than being like, okay, now what? We have to do it all over again, which we've done. We've been rebuilding since 1986. It's just like at that point where we're like, come on. But it did feel like that. I think the last couple of weeks, people on Twitter, they're not even mad anymore. They're like, I'm numb at this point. Like, it doesn't even hurt to lose. And that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, look, I used to be a big Buccaneers fan, and there were so many seasons of no, don't win. We need the top 5 pick that it made me fall out of love with the team. Like, I think 3-4 years ago, I wouldn't have wanted to do this podcast, and now my NFL attitude is, who cares? I'll root for whoever has my guy on their team. All right, I want to wrap here with you. I said this earlier, and I do believe it. Like, I don't think Tyson Bagent is good at all. I think he's fine. I think he's going to stick in the league as a backup quarterback, and that's fine. That's a totally respectable career. That being said, the fact that Tyson Bagent is probably going to be the quarterback on Thursday makes me feel like this is a very winnable game for the Panthers. What is the fan base's attitude in Chicago? Is there, I mean, you made the good point. Like, they played good enough to win in New Orleans. They do have some proof of concept with the Las Vegas game. Is there belief in Tyson, or now is it just wait for Justin to figure out what we really are?
Yeah, I think the majority of the fan base just want Justin back, but they are like, at least we have Bagent. He played terrible last week. Terrible. Like I said, way too many mistakes, bad interceptions. A couple weren't on him, but a couple were majorly like, okay, that's a bad mistake. Also, the kid was an undrafted rookie.
I was about to say, he's playing like an undrafted free agent from a D3 school. Like, he's playing exactly like what he is.
Yes, and that's what it's like. And like you said, I think he will be a backup in the league. He has that like fire under him. He's a competitor. He will try and do. And that's what, to me, he like pushes a little too much. There's certain moments where during that game, I was like, if he would have just taken the easy throw rather than try to like force it to the wide receiver down the field in between 3 defenders, like it probably would have went a little smoother. The first week, it's easy. The first week when you have a backup quarterback come out that nobody has film on.
Right.
You could tell he was able to kind of do whatever he wants. They also went away from the idea a little bit of what was working. We ran the ball a ton that first game, and it helped Tyson a lot. It was a lot of little dink and dunks types of passes, and all of a sudden they were like, just let him air it out. And I was like, let's not. Like, D'Onta Foreman's been, and that's another, like, obviously Foreman and DJMoore coming back and kind of playing with the team that they used to play for. Foreman's incredible when he has the ball in his hands, but if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he can't do anything. So it's interesting to me that's going to be, in my opinion, a big factor. I hope they go back to that week 1 plan of run the ball, just get those easy 4 yards, 3 yards, first downs, move down the field. It's not pretty. It's not exciting, but at least you're not turning the ball over every 5 seconds. I don't know how. I haven't watched a ton of Panthers, so the level of your defense, what have you guys seen out of them?
Honestly, we think they are really good, but sometimes, especially at the end of the game, the attitude, you could see the drop in attitude. It is very clear they believe they are playing for a lost cause at this point.
Okay. And honestly, like, I feel like there's moments in our games where it's kind of felt like that too, where certain players you'll see who like will come out of the gate and you're like, oh yes, okay, we're making some plays, we're getting a few pressures. Like, we didn't have a single sack last week, and I was like, how do we not get to Derek Carr? I don't understand. So that is going to be a big thing if we can finally. Obviously, they added Montez Sweat. That was his first game, so he had 2 days to look at our defensive scheme and playbook and try to, go out there. And there was pressures. He just couldn't get to the quarterback. So that's going to be, I think, the game plan of let's see if they can actually go against a line who's been struggling and get to put some pressure on Young and get there. But I'm not counting on a whole lot, honestly, of that. I think it is going to be, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be a game where you and I are probably going to be texting each other like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. One of us will be texting the other and saying what I said to Lauren a couple of weeks ago, winning with field goals is still winning. So who are we to complain?
Who makes the least mistakes in this game is going to win. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to be.